Hey, and welcome back. Welcome to our webinar here at Sex Coach U and the World Association of Sex Coaches. I'm Dr. Patti, and I'm so excited today to be welcoming a guest we're going to be speaking with, and I'll be discussing some of her really critical work in the world around de-shaming, and that's Veronica Monet. Hi, welcome.
Hi! So happy to be here, Patti.
It's so great. All these years we've known each other, and you're finally here.
I know, it's true.
Yeah. And thank you, Myisha, for hosting this, even with a cold.
Thank you.
I know that sucks. So here we are having our hot issues call this month, and we're going to open up with our tradition, which is to have people check in from our community. And I'm just going to look around and make sure we have people here on the platform to check in. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Myisha, and have people talk about who you are, what's your name, where are you in your studies, and let me think of a pivotal, let me think, what would be a good pivotal question? Oh, how are you shame busting in your life right now? So let's open it up for people to check in.
All right. Thanks so much, Dr. Patti. And just for those of you who are somewhere where you can't speak right now, you're tucked away in an office or you're driving and you want to be safe, just raise your hand or send a little chat with your check-in so that I don't call on you. But if your hand isn't up, then I will assume you're fair game. So I'm going to start with Jackie Bevel. Let's check in with Jackie.
Hey, Jackie.
Hi. And you'll just need to, I can unmute you. There you go. Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Hi, everybody. I'm good. Doing good.
Down there in Florida, right?
Yeah, Jacksonville. Good old Jacksonville. I am on course 212, and I did my first practicum session last night.
Woohoo.
And it went very, very well.
That warms my heart. Wow.
Yeah, I was excited. The way that I am shame busting. Shame busting. I hope this is related. One of the things that actually kind of started me on this path, and it continues to happen, it actually happened to me last week, is married men. And it made me initially, when I realized the number of married men that I was being approached by, it made me look at me, because I felt like it was something I was attracting or I was doing wrong, or so it made me kind of look at things, kind of go into me to see if I was, doing something or, feeling a certain way that was attracting this to me. And I took it off of me because I didn't think that it was anything that I was doing or that I was attracting. It was just, because I'm not the only woman I know that is being approached by married men. But it happened to me again last week, and I kind of reversed the shame, I guess you can say. I kind of made him think about what he was doing, and kind of made him ask himself why he was doing it. So I guess I hope that's kind of related.
It is. I think what you did is you claimed your worth and your power, and you took a stand. And not that you did anything wrong, because energetically, like attracts like. So maybe on some crazy level there was something you were broadcasting, or maybe it's just that you're a beautiful woman and you're in spaces where there are married men who are going to find you attractive.
Right.
So, you know, we don't ever really know what it is that we're doing in terms of that energetic law of attraction stuff, do we?
Right. No.
You
no.
stepped into your power and you cleaned it up and you claimed it. And I love that.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you. Good luck on the rest of the practicum. I'm sure you're going to be amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so much. And I would love to hear from Dominique. Here we go. Hi, Dominique.
Hey.
Aloha, darling.
Hi, aloha.
Look at you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
Goddess.
Just woke up a little while ago.
Look at that.
So-
You're so beautiful.
So how I shame bust is I start first by working at, like when I identify something that I'm triggered by and feel shameful from, I will work on it myself first. So I do something called cosmic smash booking. So this is my cosmic smash book. And you start off with layers. So for example, this one was about me being a priestess and and how I felt shame from that. This one was when I was dealing with how I needed to rest and feeling shame from resting, you know, because we're taught to go, go, go all the time. So, and sometimes you just need to stand still and just be. That's where this one came from. Just like I just needed to put my hands down and just ground into my body.
Beautiful.
So, thank you. Yeah.
Tell people where you are and where you are in your studies.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm on the island of Oahu in Hawaii, and I'm on 205 at this time.
Beautiful.
Taking
So
over.
what I love is that you use visual and art and the experience of creative expression rather than yak the words. Because sometimes it's not about words or that part of our brain. It's about dropping down and just feeling and knowing from the body.
Exactly. And I have my clients do art journaling. It's a requirement for them to do art journaling so they can have a container to process. And I'm starting a class in June for 9 months where we'll be making a smash book together and working on it once a month.
Ooh,
The coaching I'll be doing.
exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you. What a beautiful concept. Thank you.
Thanks,
You're
Dominique.
welcome.
I love.
Great. And let's check in with Tricia. Hi, Tricia.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi.
I'm trying on this new headset, so I just want to make sure you can hear me. I'm actually really excited because I normally am never able to attend live, but I took half a day off so that I could. So I am in Spokane, Washington, and I am on my practicum, and I just recorded my male client, I want to say about a week ago, and I'm recording my female client next Tuesday, and my couple client, I don't know, 4 to 5 days after that. So I'm hoping by Mother's Day, I'll be all done.
Great.
So, and so far it's going really well. I thought it would be a little harder, but I've talked to patients for so many years now, and that came so naturally to me. So I really tried to change my brain set to, I wouldn't say look at them as patients, but get that feeling of comfortability. And once I got past the first 10 minutes or so, it was a lot better. So I'm hoping the next two go just as smoothly. I'm a little bit nervous, but it's going really well. So I'm really, really, really proud of myself because it's been, I want to do it a lot quicker, but a year and a half is not that bad.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
And we get better as we do this. You have to know that. And everybody is different. All your clients are going to feel different. They're going to have a different energy, a different issue. They're going to carry their bodies in a different way. They're going to communicate with you differently. You're going to feel different levels of either alignment and or not alignment. It happens.
Well, absolutely. And again, I'm relating that back to nursing because we do assessments, we do care plans, all that. Just I'm trying to tweak my brain into that. It's getting there. It's getting easier and easier.
You're a natural, you're translating where you're coming from to where you're going. So it's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's exciting. Good for you.
Thanks. Shame busting. I'm thinking the thing that comes the closest was in my current profession. I really haven't told a lot of people that I've been in school and what I'm doing. And I wasn't really sure why. I was thinking that it was because, I don't want to tell one job that I'm going for a different type of thing. But I finally, it's all out in the open and everybody knows and everybody asks really great questions and it's making me more comfortable talking about it and what it's all about. So that's just in the last few weeks. So I'm really excited. It was like this big weight just kind of came off my shoulders and I'm just super excited about it.
That's beautiful. Really,
Thanks.
really beautiful.
Thank you. And that's all I have.
Keep going. Get it done by Mother's Day.
I know. Yeah. Good juju my way, right?
Yeah. Sounds great. Bye, sweetie.
Bye.
And we have a comment in chat.
So this is coming from Danielle. She's sorry she can't be on webcam. She's totally new to the program and excited to get to know everyone and proceed with the program. She's in Denver, Colorado, and she works on de-shaming by living her life as authentically as possible regarding sex and lifestyle, and she's vocal about it. So she doesn't hide from anything from who she is. So that's amazing. Yes, that is a huge step in de-shaming.
Yeah.
Yourself as a
Thank
sex
you.
offender.
Thank you, Danielle. Thanks for showing up.
Great. And I'd love to maybe hear from Blake. Let's see if Blake is available. Hi, Blake. Are you there?
Hi. I hope you're parked.
I am parked. I don't video chat and drive.
Yay. Good.
So I am in course 206 and I actually did the lecture last night and that was super exciting. And so I actually turned to my mom and I was like, it's very interesting that I'm writing dildo as part of my homework. So, it's very interesting.
It is.
I love it. I am in Phoenix, Arizona. The weather is starting to get really hot. Today is kind of nice because we had rain a couple days ago, but overall it's starting to get warm. But as far as de-shaming in my life, I've been going through kind of a rough patch when it comes to relationships. And my last boyfriend that I had back in August, I actually had to get a restraining order against. And it kind of made me really realize who I am and what I need to do for myself. And so I've actually taken a sex sabbatical since then. And I am just kind of redefining who I am and knowing who I am. Therefore, I don't have to have shame of who I'm picking and what I go through. So that's where I'm at.
Good. So much growth. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's been a rough road, but I'm doing a lot of audiobooks and, the school work is really helping. My coursework has been very helpful in knowing who I am through things. So it's been a journey.
Thank you. Thanks for showing up.
Yeah, thanks. You too.
Time for one more.
One more. I was hoping you'd say that because I would love to hear from Jade.
I don't know if that is me. Hello.
Yeah, hey, how's it going?
Hi, Jade.
That's
Good
pretty
to see
good.
you.
So just as a counter to Blake's statement, writing the word dildo in a homework assignment is cool. I'm currently surrounded by vibrators, dildos.
Dildo man.
You can't tell I'm currently at work, so I was just like, oh, cool. This will work. Right now, there's nobody in the store, so it's kind of working out nice for me.
What course are you on?
So I'm actually, let's see, I think I am on 201. I'm getting kind of back into the crack of it. had a bit of a setback. I accidentally forgot to save one of my study guides, and yeah, that kind of like hurt a little bit. So it was that was actually towards the end of March, and then all of April we were just setting up for our ladies' night. We just got a event where it was in the store where we had over 250 just people all over our store. That was a pretty good little show that we did. It's always fun when we do it. It's kind of like, I like to describe it as like being in a zombie movie, except a lot less threatening. Just hordes of people everywhere. So I'm finally now getting back into the swing of that, because once that event was finally done, my schedule's opening up again. So hopefully start getting a better crack on everything to get kind of caught up of where I kind of want to be at within the program.
Where are you located? Tell people.
Oh, Fargo, North Dakota. Again, to counter Blake's thing, I would love it to be hot right now. We're finally getting to the point where we finally don't have any snow outside, which is nice. And that's been a good, like, kind of little turnover. If you give me a second here, my FedEx is actually just showing up. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just in the middle of a conference. I can just grab those real quick. If you want to come back to me, that might be a little bit better.
All right.
Thanks, Jade.
Thank you.
We all lead busy lives.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, let's pause this part of our webinar, and it's now time for me to say how grateful I am that Veronica, you've taken time out of your really busy schedule. I know how busy you are.
Yeah.
to really share not just your wisdom, but your presence with us. You are such a healer. You're such a voice for de-shaming. The shame-free zone came about a long time ago, before shame was like a thing. Not that shame hasn't been prevalent forever, but that the public attention is going toward shame and really looking at this as a cultural meme. And so I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to read a little bit about you for our community, because you have so much accomplishment, I couldn't possibly memorize it all. But I love that, you know, like me and many of us who are graduates in this field of sexology, you're part of the American College of Sexologists. You're certified by them. And that part of what I love about you is the way you frame things. And even in your bio, you're an internationally acclaimed sexual and spiritual empowerment change agent. And that's so critical, because here at Sex Coach U, I teach people from my 5-part holistic model, which has the traditional 3 of mind, emotions, and body, but it also has energy and spirit. And so everyone in our program gets to look at where energy and spirit play a role in our sexual story, in our sexual awakening, in our sexual issues, in our sexuality. And you're also a relationship coach. I'm just looking at all the things that you've done. You've been on so many media platforms. I know that you work with both individuals and couples to heal shame and align with their spiritual core and live more joyfully. And that's so beautifully put. You know, that sense of how you elevate people is part of who you are. We're really lucky to have you here today. And so you do not just sexological work, as I understand it, but relationship coaching as well, and anger specialist, and being an empath. There's something, you know, I feel that myself as well as an empath. We bring that intuitive presence, we bring that intuitive awareness and sensing with clients to the work that we do. So it gives us, it's a double-edged sword, and I'd love to hear how you hold that. Because when you're an empath, you're highly sensitive and you feel things, and you know where your client is feeling pain and stuck. But we're also really sensitive creatures in the world. And like, too much noise bothers me, too much draft. Anyway, that's a whole other story. So anyway, the shame-free zone, you're going to talk today about love, lust, and romance in the age of Me Too. So tell me, maybe we could begin with, why did you pick that particular topic? Why, for people who maybe aren't sure, why is that so prevalent today? Let's talk a little bit about that.
You know, thanks. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm just excited to hear about the spiritual aspects that you bring into your sexuality training. That's because I'm all about that, the holistic approach. I am so tired of sex being over in this what I call the sexual ghetto, and because I really think it should be the through line in every aspect of our lives, including our spirituality. So
I love that. And many spiritual practices avoid sex. They will not talk about it. It's like the taboo. It's the dark side. So you're right on in terms of that.
Yeah, I think they do that because it's competition.
Oh, well, that's another topic. But why did you select this topic, framing it in terms of what's happening kind of within and post the Me Too revolution?
Here's what happened for me. I since I work with clients, I get to see what's up for people right now today, like what's real for them. And it was becoming really apparent to me that men were kind of getting frightened to make the first move. I get a lot of messages, email, social media from men who are like, well, I'm just not even going to compliment a woman anymore. And I'm not going to initiate a kiss on the first date or the second or the third date. She'll have to initiate. And so there's kind of this terror that nobody wants to talk about. And then on the other side of this, a lot of women kind of enduring, putting up with sex that they hate with their boyfriends and their husbands. And it's just become really apparent to me, even when I read about the Me Too moments, which I've had plenty of them, trust me. I'm at once cheering these brave women on for telling their stories. I think it's so important to be calling out the sexist culture that has been impacting women in a negative way. But we don't seem to have a way forward on this. We don't seem to have a way to get past the shaming of anybody, particularly men, but anybody who's violated boundaries. I don't think shame is ever the solution to anything. And the originator of the Me Too hashtag, Tarana Burke, initially had said last year, she was saying, or maybe it was even 2 years ago, she said, finally, the shame is being taken off the women and put where it belongs, which is on the men. And I just thought, oh, that is such a big mistake. We don't need to transfer the shame. We need to heal the shame and move past that.
I agree.
And I'm happy to say that just recently, like within the last 3 months, Tarana Burke actually has said now that she wants Me Too to be a movement for men as well. So this is the other thing that I'm discovering. I started facilitating a group for men about Me Too last year and discovered that first they came in with all kinds of guilty confessions, but then eventually they started remembering being violated themselves. And there's a way in which I think all of us, regardless of our gender, have experienced sexual perpetration of some sort, some way in which our boundaries have been eroded, some way in which our no hasn't been honored, some way in which we just didn't even have a no. And I really want to explore how men sometimes choose to have sex because they think they're supposed to and not because they want to. I want to get us to a place where we're having beautiful, joyful sex that is completely consensual and conscious.
Hear ye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, transferring, even saying, and I don't follow her in particular, but even saying, let's take the shame and let's unearth it from men.
Yeah.
Then where are you going to throw that ball next? Because you're still using shame as a weapon and you're still victimizing people.
And we're using shame as silencing us. So
yes,
one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is, what do you need to know before you even can assert a boundary?
I like that.
I think it's really important that we understand how we have shamed ourselves, how we're relating to our sexuality in ways that are less than healthy. If you don't actually connect with that, if you haven't made that journey to really understand what you like, what you don't like, without it being somehow or another kind of perverted by shame and a lot of prescriptions, like you should do this, you shouldn't do that, then it's kind of hard to assert a boundary because you're confused. And a lot of times what will happen is like, no, okay, maybe, yes, no, I don't think so. And then perhaps afterwards, oh, why did I do that? Or no, I don't think I really wanted to do that. Did I really want to do that? So this confusion, it's going to happen if you haven't gotten clear on your relationship with your sexuality. So that's really the first place, isn't moving into having great assertion skills. It's about having clarity about how you relate to your own sexuality and cleaning out that closet, getting like, where is it that I'm confused? Where is it that I'm conflicted? Where is it that I have desires that go this direction and then that go in that direction? How do I feel about myself sexually? So really, we have to heal our shame. We have to move past our shame before we even really can have a solid boundary.
So this is going to sound silly, but you're kind of like the Marie Kondo of shame. Like decluttering ourselves. We talk about that here, decluttering ourselves around the pieces of shame that are stuck and throwing them out or organizing them properly.
Right. Well, so if you're going to come out of the closet,
and clean it up.
like, let's say you don't even know that you like some forms of BDSM, and then you get kind of drawn into it, not consciously. Somebody kind of seduces you into it. There's a really good chance that on the other side of that, you're going to have a lot of remorse. And you might even feel like you were tricked or coerced. So I don't think we can have a conversation about consent unless we can have a conversation about our own internalized shame. Once you get clear on that and you know, and you're sure that you know how you feel about things, then it's a lot easier to navigate that terrain about when somebody has violated your consent.
So you prepared a list of questions for me to ask you, and we're totally in the moment, which is what I prefer. But yes. I want to honor that you have a lot to share with us today, and you've talked about what do you need to know in terms of your boundaries.
Right.
You also have this really interesting pivotal question: why sexual shame sabotages both sexual desire and sexual boundaries. Say more about that. About desire. It's such an interesting issue that we face as sex coaches all the time with our clients.
Right. Well, so for some of my clients, I have found that if they are ashamed of some of their desires, they can actually project those onto their partner. So that's kind of a difficult thing. If you can't claim your sexual desire because you feel ashamed of it, then you probably are going to project it onto other people. And that's not a good place to be coming from if you want to have boundaries. If you want to assert a boundary, you actually kind of need to know where you are and where the other person is. I mean, that's the whole concept of boundaries, right? I begin and end here, you begin and end there. So, but if I can't make that distinction because I am shame-based, then it's going to be really difficult for me to own what is mine. And in some ways, this actually, Patti, kind of goes into the whole idea of codependency too, that where there's this conflation between you and I. And if I don't also understand some of the scripts from my childhood, I can start putting those on my partner. Maybe it's something about my daddy, maybe it's something about my mother. And there's ways in which I have gotten very confused at this point. It's not just about me and this other person anymore.
Well, so that's imago therapy in a nutshell.
Right? I
which
am
is
a
such a
Harville
great,
Hendrix fan.
I mean, it's such a great pathway to understanding the relationships we're in. And I remember years ago studying with John Gray, who used to say 90% of what's happening in your relationship is from the past. Only 10% is right now.
Right.
And so that the ghosts of our childhood patterns, our belief systems, and the shaming that we carry. And I believe we carry shame in our DNA as well, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And well, now with epigenetics, we know that we've got trauma that's intergenerational. It's going from
Yes.
generation to generation, whether you
Yeah.
ever met the people that came before you or not.
Exactly.
So, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. It's wound in the DNA helix.
Yeah, so
So-
and that's really something, that's an encouraging thing, Patti. If we heal our shame as individuals, we're actually healing the planet and the human species. So it's a big undertaking.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm curious about something. What motivated you in the very beginning of your work to move toward this as your as where your this is your focal point. This is the center of your work. What got you there? I'm curious about that, and I'll bet everybody here is too.
It's doing my own work. I was raised in a very conservative, right-wing Christian cult, which was incredibly sex negative. And the interesting thing about that sex negative is it also created lots of opportunity for perpetration. So having grown up in a religious soup, I had a grandmother that was a Mormon, a grandmother that was Assembly of God, which is Pentecostal, and my mother belonged to the Worldwide Church of God. So here I was as a child in this religious soup. I read the Bible from cover to cover when I was 12, hoping to have a religious awakening, because I am a very spiritual person, but instead, no offense to anybody out there who may like the Bible, it didn't work for me. I felt really repulsed. And I realized it was just like this, for me, a triple dose of misogyny and shame. And a lot of shame foisted on the female, on the female body, on female sexuality, on female power. So I was definitely on a mission to rebel against that as a young adult. But as I matured, I became much more interested in healing it as opposed to rebelling. And I really believe that as long as we've got sexual shame, which a lot of times can come from the way certain religions are interpreted and practiced, that we are going to continue to see perpetrations. I really believe that it's the shame that actually creates that fertile ground for a lack of clear boundaries and consent.
Wow. Well, we just have to look at what's been going on with the Catholic Church to have proof of that, right?
Yeah.
And I think, I think it's important to say generically that for myself personally, I'm certainly not anti-religion. I'm very pro-spirituality. Yeah. But it's the legislation of these values that become shaming and restricting and anti fill in the blank that are really harming people who are following these creeds, right?
And there's certain things, there are things that are changing. I think the Pope, the current Pope I think he's a miracle in himself. I'm really excited with a lot of the awarenesses that he's bringing to the fore. And I just watched a commencement speech from a young gay man at Brigham Young University. And and he was just cheered on by hundreds of classmates. So, and he was declaring that God created him gay, and I was just astounded because my grandmother was a Mormon. I would have never thought that this would happen at Brigham Young University, but it is.
Right, a Mormon university, right?
Yeah. So things are changing. Things are changing.
Yeah. Well, let's come back to what you position as what you really want to share with us. So there's a curious question you have, and it's the best ways to stop sex you have already started. So this is where the healing journey really begins, when you've you think you're in a boundary. I call it the big wide picture frame. And
Right.
something occurs and it either is outside of that picture frame or it's making the picture frame go crazy, wobbling inside.
Yeah.
How do you help clients with that?
Well, I've got a 5-step process. Before I go into
Okay.
that, I want to like contextualize this. So it's my experience that once sex has begun, however you define that, a lot of people feel obligated. Now, maybe this points back to some codependent assumptions as well. But however you want to label that, it really doesn't matter. It is definitely going towards this direction of, well, we've already started it. I've already said yes to whatever I've said yes to. So to stop would be rude, or and there's a lot of mythology that goes along with that too, like the thing about blue balls, sexual frustration in men. It's not fair to them. Right down to the point that if a man is inside the woman's vagina, you can't ask him to stop. And I disagree. I absolutely, positively disagree. If we don't have permission, if we don't have power and license to say no at any point at all, then we don't actually have full consent. So, and this is actually really easy to get past some of the assumptions that have come through our culture that pertain towards men and women. A lot of this stuff is gendered, but we can get past that if we just reverse it to something else. And I like to bring up the example of, what if your girlfriend was using a dildo on you as a man anally? Let's say she, bend over a boyfriend, whatever you relate to there. But she's strapped one on and she's penetrating you anally. Should you be able to say, I need to stop when you want to stop? And almost everybody agrees. Of course, because it might hurt. It might be that, you're not enjoying it, or it's gotten too rough or something. And at that point, the assumption right there is that because she's using a dildo, she won't experience any sexual frustration. So some of our ideas about consent are heavily gendered around the idea that a man's penis has got a mind of its own and cannot be told to stop. Or that it's rude or unconscionable or cruel to tell the penis to stop. And I'm really on a mission to say penises are not any more important than vaginas, and should not end up having a veto power during sexual intercourse. So, and that just kind of cuts through some of the gender bullshit, as far as I'm concerned. So regardless of your gender, however you identify, whether it's male, female, trans, whatever, I think it's important to know that your body is sacred, and you always have the power and permission to say no at any stage of the game. Now, how do we do that? The 5-step process that I teach, I call it the exquisite partnership formula. So it basically starts off with, the very first thing is, I want to validate. So let's take it away from sexual intercourse right now and just go to, my partner wants to do something sexual that I don't enjoy, and I have no openness to trying it. It's absolutely positively beyond the pale. I will never be available for this sexual engagement, whatever it is. But they brought it to me. So the first thing I want to do is I want to validate them and say, wow, lots of people like doing that. I've read about that. I heard about that. I hear that it can be very enjoyable. And I totally understand why you would want to do that. So right away, we are greeting them with joy. Okay. And then the second thing I want to do is I want to appreciate them and go, how lucky I am that you brought that to me. How lucky I am that you want to do that with me, your partner. I just feel really loved and flattered and embraced by your desire. So that's the appreciation. And then right on the heels of that is your no. However, I'm not available to do that with you, ever. So it's a very firm no. It's not mushy. It's not like maybe someday, or I don't know, let me think about that, or wow, I can't believe you brought that up. We don't go there. It's just, I got a firm no. Just like no. And it's very quick, okay? I'm not going to explain my no. I'm not going to linger on my no. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time agonizing about it or say, I hope you're not hurt. No, we don't even go there. The very next step is the redirect. And I just come right in and say, I won't do that. And there is something I have been dying to do with you, something I wanted to talk to you about. Would you like to hear what it is? Now, at that stage, almost everybody does want to hear it. They might still be stinging a little bit from your absolute rock solid no, but they're intrigued to find out what's the yes? What is it that you're inviting me into? And on the other hand, they could be a little pouty. And if they are pouty and they don't want to hear your redirect, then that's fine. Step 5 is invitation. And the invitation is to simply say, I know we love each other. Let's set aside a time to talk about the things we would like to do and the things we don't want to do. And I'm sure we'll find our way forward here. So the first 4, really, it's very quick. It doesn't take a lot of time to do this, but you have to kind of build a habit that I built over 14 years of being in the sex industry, because I didn't have the option of simply saying, no, get away from me. I was choosing to have these people and draw them close to me. And I learned to draw them close with joy, enthusiasm, and an absolutely positively rock solid no.
We don't do that here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, wow, there's so much noise around sexual agency, sexual empowerment, what's politically correct, consent, what's appropriate, the negotiation. If you think of what's going on in college campuses, people are signing contracts about, is it okay on the first date to hold my hand? I've been to conferences. I'm a sexologist, and I've seen people who are grown-ups, like in their 50s, 60s, 70s, who saw me at a conference a year ago, and actually, instead of and this is controversial what I'm going to say, instead of the natural human response, having just come back to a conference after losing my partner, whom they knew as well, saying, is it okay if I give you a hug? And that stopped me in my tracks. We're not even talking sex. We're talking consent for touch of any kind.
Yeah.
And in the awareness, I'm not going to say pre-Me Too, but the awareness of all this dialogue and noise, loud noise around consent, it would have been a human response to go like this. I'm so sorry for your loss, and give me a hug. That's the culture that we're living in today, systemically, worldwide. So I think when you look at how do you stop sex, what you're saying, what the picture you're painting is so honoring and so enlightened and so comprehensive in terms of relationship. But when it's a one-night encounter, or if it's somebody new and sex begins and you want to stop it, I think there's another layer to that. Don't you agree? It's that kind of having the conversation and let me invite you to this. I don't think that's going to happen. So how do you help people around that and the fallout of shame if I say to him, get off me, but you said, but how does that work?
So first of all, I wouldn't say get off me. And by the way, I hear what you're saying about this 5-step process. You're not thinking that would happen in a one-night stand. I certainly have done it hundreds of times with people that I'd only known for 5 minutes. So the way I teach it,
Yeah.
I know it is possible. But so let's just talk about the idea that you are, somebody is engaging in intercourse and is on top of you, and suddenly you learn, you just become aware of the fact that you're not having a good time, or that you're freaking out, or you're feeling triggered, or whatever.
Or pain.
Yeah, or that it's hurting. I think there's two things that are really important. One, if you are having sex with this person, I hope that you actually feel safe enough to express your preferences. If you don't feel safe enough to express your preferences, then I think you need to reconsider having sex with this person. So that's kind of like a prerequisite.
Mm-hmm.
If you fall into bed and kind of get coerced into it because you've had a few drinks, this is not a good situation to be learning how to have boundaries. This is a place where you've set yourself up to be at risk. So first thing, make sure that you're having sex with people you can talk to, that you can say no to, that you can say yes to. I, as a sex educator, certainly some of my best sexual experiences have been when, if there was maybe even 4 or 5 of us, we'd get together and talk about what we were going to do, what we weren't going to do, our sexual histories, what kind of safer sex techniques we wanted to use. All that conversation took place before we touched each other. So I realize not everybody can do that. And particularly when I'm working with my clients, I don't expect them to have sex like sex educators do. But I certainly do want them to contextualize their sexual experiences with the minimum requirement that you can have a conversation about how you feel and what your preferences are before, during, and after sex. It should be before, during, and after sex. But here's, at the beginning we talked about why you can't have boundaries if you still have sexual shame. This is one of those reasons. If I'm too ashamed to admit that I have desire, well, then I put the pressure on you to seduce me and to try to intuit what it is that I want. I can't tell you what I want because I feel too ashamed to tell you what I want. So now I'm waiting for you to figure it out and kind of maybe even convince me, pull me into it so that I get permission to overcome my shame. And then when we're in the middle of it, now I'm confused. What, did I really want this? And it's your fault. So, so to basically grow up and take responsibility is one way to keep yourself safe and have boundaries. But on the other side of this, we've got, of course, a formula for seduction that can look like convincing and tricking and trapping and trying to push edges. And regardless of your gender, that is out there. If you're in the role of the seducer, sometimes it's like this game that's going on. The person who's getting seduced and the person who's doing the seducing, there's a lot of unspoken terrain. So we need to start being able to talk about these things before, during, and after. If I were having sex with somebody that I just met and they were inside me and I suddenly realized that I was triggered, I would simply say, I'm triggered and I need to stop.
Very good. And assumedly that person will.
If they don't, then I somehow or another signed up to have sex with a rapist.
That's right. That's right.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, because no means no. But we also need, I do believe we need to get to an affirmative yes. But I don't like the legalistic approaches that I'm seeing about the affirmative yes for consent, because they have removed the lust and the romance. I think we need to be able to have romance. I don't always want it to be like, oh, we should ask for a kiss. I mean, ugh. And if that works for some people, may I kiss you? That's great. There's all kinds of formulas for that, but I think it's really important for us to be developing something else, Patti, and this is an empathetic, intuitive connection to each other. And we've got to train this and teach this and share this across the genders. This is another thing that I think has birthed the Me Too moment. And that is that the female culture, and I'm not assuming that this is about genitalia here. I'm just saying if you were raised, identified with the feminine culture, it's very intuitive. And when we read body language, we understand what a no looks like without it having a word. But if you weren't, if you were raised more masculine identified and you've kind of had your own connection to self kind of pummeled out of you so that you've been shamed around even having sensitive emotions, well, then guess what? The whole idea that somebody didn't say no, it eludes you. It's kind of like, well, and this is what I hear from the men. I hear this from the men all the time. Why don't they just have a firm no? I know what no sounds like. Why don't they just say no? But that kind of removes this juicy terrain of seduction and romance. So I would very much like for us to be able to move our culture into a place that's just a little more intuitive and connected. Monkeys do it. I think we humans can do it too. I think we can learn to read body language and facial expressions and voice and breath and understand what's going on with our partner even before they speak. And wouldn't that be wonderful to have sexual partners who are sensitive enough to realize that you're not present anymore, so I'm going to stop.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I understand bonobos do this. It's one of our nearest, closest primate relatives. So I don't think it's a big ask for human beings to be able to start doing that.
So talk about how sex can heal sexual trauma. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I sure can. I was 4 years clean and sober and in therapy as an incest survivor and a rape survivor when I became a high-end escort. One of the things that I was constantly accosted with was that somehow or another I was reenacting my trauma. And that wasn't my experience. I'm not saying that some people aren't doing that, but it certainly wasn't what I was doing. As a matter of fact, I found it incredibly healing. It was kind of like I'd been in therapy and I'd been reading all these self-help books, and then suddenly I was doing my lab work. And having this ability to have boundaries in a way that was creating heart connection and eroticism was just phenomenal. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So I want to share that with people, that I work with sex addicts. I work with guys who feel imprisoned by their relationship with pornography and masturbation. Serious issues like losing jobs over it, losing wives and girlfriends over it, losing all their happiness and joy over it. And I don't usually take them to abstinence. I actually take them towards more masturbation. But I change the terms of it completely. I invite them to a sacred sexual connection to themselves. And we get away from the porn and we go towards conscious breathing exercises and elevate their orgasms to something that is much more spiritually sourced and much more connected to their emotional core. So it's kind of like if I were trying to work with a food addiction, you don't stop eating, right? Instead, you learn to have a different relationship with food.
Exactly.
So I want to help people not stop having sex, but just change their relationship so that it's deepened and it's conscious and it's integrated, like what you're teaching, Patti.
Beautiful. So beautiful. Well, we only have about 6 minutes left, believe it or not.
Wow.
Before we open it up for comments and questions. And you have some other really great questions that you prepared. How do you get clear about what you really want and learn to scream and shout it as your boundary?
Well, I usually start with self-pleasuring rituals. I do. I want my clients to have a relationship with themselves and also whatever spirituality they embrace. So I actually believe that, you know, I've read research that supports the idea that a lot of fetuses might actually be masturbating in the womb, sometimes to the point of orgasm. And if that's true, which I think it is, then that kind of comes before our first breath of air, our first sip of mother's milk. And that means that it's central to our being. But it's a very intriguing thought. If that baby is not thinking about pornography or making another baby or falling in love or getting married or some romantic movie or some rape fantasy, none of that's there. What the hell's going on? And I like to try to take my clients back to that very, very early innocence. And once that occurs, once they get connected to that innocent part of themselves, they can start to realize that they've also got a connection to the divine through their sexuality. You know, the ancients used to talk about sex being a doorway to the divine. I happen to believe that's true. I've had lots of experiences. I call it my holy trinity, Patti. It's me, my beloved, and the divine. And that's where I go when I am in sexual union. And for me, it's my own religious experience, if you will. So
Beautiful.
yeah, I like to share that.
So last question. What is the best way to create love, lust, and romance while staying anchored in your healthy boundaries? You've kind of answered that, but
I have.
As a kind of concluding remark, what would you like to say?
Well, first of all, I'd like to invite your students to go over to my website, The Shame-Free Zone, and get their copy of the Exquisite Partnership Formula, because it details those 5 steps in there. And I think developing an intuitive connection to sex is so important. We've gotten really disembodied as a species. We are so up in our heads, and we've become very verbally oriented, but our sex is pre-verbal. So if we can start to develop an energetic sense of ourselves, which I really think is important, learning about body language, learning how to read facial expressions. You know, a large percentage of our population is becoming autistic, or they're somewhere on the autism spectrum too. So then that makes it more difficult to connect in those ways where we're actually in the body and we understand what other bodies are doing and saying. But I think it's really important for us to start finding ways to bring that into our culture as a species. So, I mean, it was there a very, very long time ago. That was all we had. And now it seems like we don't have much of a connection to it. And as I write this book, Patti, it's going to become more and more clear to me how to answer that question on a lot of different levels. At this point, the 5-step process of asserting a no while creating heart connection is a very important part of the book. And also trying to educate and re-educate people to their more intuitive, empathic sides is really important. But my fans, followers are going to help me write this book too. I'm asking them to pose questions, and I'll put this out to your students as well. I want as much feedback from the public as possible, because this is our shared journey. And right now I feel like there's more questions than answers.
That's beautiful. So where are you in the process of the book, just so that we all have an idea?
About a third of the way through.
Okay, so you're open to input, and anyone who's
absolutely
watching
absolutely.
How do they sign up to be part of a blog or a newsletter? What's the mechanism?
If you just go over to theshamefreezone.com and download your copy of the free ebook, which is, by the way, 10,000 words long and full color. It's gorgeous. Then you'll be put on the newsletter. But there's also we've also put right over on the right side of the page is about the book. And you can
Okay.
actually leave comments right there.
Excellent. Because it's not so easy to teach people how to read a body, how to read energies. And my experience clinically is that that's particularly something I hear from cisgendered men a lot, is that I don't know how to read cues. I don't know when a woman is interested in me. I don't know if what I'm doing is working. Without language, I think sometimes words actually get in the way of connection.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Which is why I'm hoping we can find a way forward that's affirmative consent without having to say, "May I touch your breast?"
Exactly. And may I do it for 2 seconds with my index finger if it has a temperature of, anyway, don't get me started.
Exactly.
But I like that you're really pursuing this, because I think it's a deficit in the how-to literature of how to teach people about sex and reading. And especially, I live in Southern California. I know it's really a warped environment, but every other person has no micro expressions because they're Botoxed up.
Oh,
so, okay. Right. So, little injections all over where expressions would show. There aren't any. It's like, yes, that would be lovely. That's what's going on in my culture. I don't have any, by the way. I don't believe in it for me.
Me neither.
But it's everywhere. And in youth, even youth are, I have a wrinkle. Oh, I have wait, on a contour.
So
we have lost, for a large body of the population here anyway, the ability to even express emotion, and micro expressions are eradicated because they're frozen. They're paralyzed.
You know what? I was thinking about that hug that you really wanted, that somebody asked you, "May I hug you?" And I personally don't find it offensive if somebody says, "May I hug you?" I'm like, "Yes, please."
Well, sometimes I need that, but not always. Well, so this is about the cluelessness in reading.
Yes. Well, something I will sometimes do is that I just put my arms out like this. Mm-hmm. And you could come towards them or not. It's up to you.
Yes.
It's just available to you.
Yeah. But we're stuck in a culture that is requiring language. So even though many of us and our clients may go like that, I can't extend my arms all the way to this camera. What happens is, it's like, well, you didn't ask permission. So there's this tension, and then it's connected to shame about wanting or not knowing how. And so you're this, having shame be the core of the focus is so important. And you've really said so many important things to us today.
And fear, Patti. Fear.
Well, it's part of it.
Yeah. I was like, we're afraid to have desire. We're afraid to have boundaries. We're afraid to speak our truth. We're afraid to say no. We're afraid to say yes. We're afraid to say, "I'd like to do this." And we're afraid. Yeah.
And then we feel shame if we do or we don't. So there it is. Well, let's open it up. Myisha, I'm assuming you're still there.
Oh, I'm here.
Behind, it's like the Wizard of Oz handling the rivers. For those of you who haven't seen the Wizard of Oz, you should, and also Wicked.
Right.
Let's open it up for a little bit and see if there are comments or questions.
Yep.
And
I
have
one person shoot their hand right up. So
cool.
Jump into it with Ashley.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
All good?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I guess I might have two questions wrapped in one. This was an amazing little webinar. I agree that romance and chivalry is not dead, and that men should not have to ask every single time for something, because I like the romance, and so I completely agree with that. So I guess my main concern is I read Peggy Ornstein's book, Girls and Sex, and it was a great book, but there was a lot of about rape culture in there, and it's like much as I feel that that's important to teach our teens, both male and female, what to do and what not to do, and how to explore yourselves and stuff like that. I don't want my daughters to have to be, you know, like, can I do this, or expect a man or a boy to have to ask permission for everything. You know, I want them to feel that romanticism and those butterflies in your stomach and that anticipation of, oh, is he going to kiss me, or he's going to hold my hand. And, you know, as much, I don't know how to, I guess, word this, but how do you teach your daughters about their boundaries, along with being okay with them not having to specifically ask if they can kiss or hold hands, or, you know, if when they are ready for sex, you know, am I making any sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Okay.
know, the first thing that comes to my mind, thank you for your question, Ashley. And it's really helpful for me, by the way, to hear that you still want there to be romance and those butterflies, and I agree. I really do. I think one of the things about consent, the conversation that's not taking place right now, is the idea of taking responsibility for asserting a boundary. So let's say I, as a bisexual woman, wanted to kiss a woman, and I didn't want to ask her, may I kiss you? I decided that I had read her body language. I think that we're at a place where she might invite this kiss. And I'm going to take a risk. Oh, hi, Poochie. I would want to be able to be prepared for the fact that she could say no. So I need to know how to take a no. I need to know not to take it as an offensive occurrence that I have to react to. And at the same time, if I were that woman who somebody went to kiss and I wasn't ready for that kiss, I want to take responsibility to say, I'm not ready for that, or thank you, but not now, something like that. Somehow this conversation seems like it's gotten to a place where it's just the responsibility of the person who's initiating to ask or to intuit, and the person who is on the other side of that equation has no responsibility to simply say no. I think it's okay for there to sometimes be confusion and mixed messages. We've got to learn how to navigate this terrain without making it trauma. And unfortunately, right now, it seems like we got a lot of trauma on one side of, oh my God, am I going to be rejected? And if I get rejected, well, then she's a bitch. And we have trauma on the other side, which is basically, oh, I don't want to hurt his feelings. And we've really got to evolve past this. It's like, you don't have to hurt somebody's feelings to say no. You don't have to shame them for having somehow or another missed the cue and thought you were available for a kiss. And conversely, if I'm initiating a kiss, it's not my right to feel offended if somebody says no to it. It's like, okay, maybe another time, not now. So I don't know. How was that answer for you, Ashley?
It was a pretty good answer. Yeah, I think that gives me a little bit more direction on how to talk to my daughters about those things. Yeah, and not just my daughters too. You know, my goal in being a sex coach is to possibly, maybe in the future, just swing things around with comprehensive, age-appropriate sex education too. So this is it's extremely, you know, informational to get every aspect of everything. So kids aren't confused when you know, their sexuality comes to play in their life.
Yeah.
So it was great. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you. And so we've gotten a couple questions. First, Veronica, there was a question about how to reach you directly. So is it okay if I share your shame-free zone address with our group?
Oh, please do. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. I'm going to share that in the chat. And then we also have a couple chats that came through. that I wanted to share. Thank you so much, Veronica. This is such an informative and amazing webinar. I have a question about when women are having sex with their partner and they don't really want to, but do it because they want to please their partner, then feel guilt, shame after. I'm hearing this is happening more and more. What would I say to them?
Well, here's the thing that I kind of like to appeal to the codependency that's inherent in that particular scenario. And I myself am a recovering codependent. So sometimes when I'm trying to get myself to build new behaviors, the best I can do is to appeal to my codependency to stop. And so this is what it looks like for me. I let the client know that when they engage in sex that they don't really want, they are actually harming their partner. On some level, on some energetic level, they're going to be able to sense it, and it will define how they feel about themselves, and it'll define the relationship. So it's a lose, lose, lose. The partner loses, the person loses, the relationship loses. And to really help highlight that sex, obligatory sex, pity sex, is an insult not only to your body's integrity, but it's an insult to the other person's sacredness. And we want to honor each other. When we come together to have sex with each other, the most important thing is not pleasure, it's honor, respect, and caring. And that applies to whether or not it's paid sex or one night stand. We need to be showing each other that kind of regard. So I think that it's very insulting and damaging to have sex with somebody out of pity or obligation.
That's really powerful. We had another comment from Jade who says, I think asking consent can be sexy, as romance is a state of mind for the guys having a hard time these days. Just be nice and charismatic and don't be a, sorry for the language, dick.
Okay. All right. Well, so I have to say that that comment has a little shaming in it for me. And I understand the frustration. I do. Look, I'm a rape survivor. I'm an incest survivor. And I have encountered a lot of idiots that happen to have penises. So I can understand the frustration. But I think it's important for us to start seeing each other with a little more compassion. I don't think that the vast majority of men are perpetrators, nor do I think that they've got dickish motives. I think they're confused and frustrated, and the more that we make fun of that or shame them for having what might seem to some of us obvious questions, the less communication we're going to open up between the genders. So I think it's important. You know, I've engaged some dialogues with all genders on this topic, and what I have found is that the disparity between the masculine and feminine cultures is actually pretty huge. And there's a way in which we have got to start bridging that gap and understanding each other's perspective. So that's the first thing that came to my mind. If you want to read that question back, I'm sure I could address the rest of it. But the first thing I wanted to just say was we've got to start answering questions on both sides that might seem really obvious to us. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, it was more a couple of comments, just that, like, you know, we kind of think of asking for consent as a non-sexy thing, and he's saying, no, asking can be sexy, and that romance is really a state of mind, and that this idea of consent can be incorporated into romance.
You know, in one of those classes that I taught about Me Too for men, I've co-facilitated it with a colleague of mine by the name of Melissa Mango. And she actually illustrated consent in a very sexy way. She asked me if she could kiss me, and it made me weak in the knees. So it's absolutely possible. And at the same time, I hope we don't evolve our culture to the point where that's the only option for us to realize consent. I hope we can have a continuum of skills and repertoire that allow us to sometimes ask and sometimes perhaps intuit. And that's the direction I'd like. I think there are ways that we can achieve affirmative consent without always having to use our words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We live in hope.
Yeah, we had another comment that was basically along those lines too, that that they don't believe that asking for consent has to be inherently unsexy.
It's not inherently unsexy. I think it takes a little bit of practice. My God, I got to tell you, the best group sex scenario I ever engaged in was completely pre-negotiated using our words. So,
Great.
Yeah.
Well, it is that time. So, Veronica, I want to thank you so deeply for sharing not only your expertise and your experiences, those really enriched what you had to share, but your wisdom that I think I'm processing a lot of what we discussed today, because I think this is such a huge topic. And it's one where it's affecting everyone all over the world. And as sex coaches and sexologists, we're the ones who are going to sit in the room with people and help them navigate to the best of our ability to get to the best of their ability. So thank you so much. And hope that, all of us who are here can help you in creating this beautiful and important book, because we need to learn how to empathically know what's up or down. So that said,
please, all your students, please send me emails at veronica@theshameforsin.com with your comments, your questions, and your wisdom, so that I can take it forward out into the world.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for showing up. And for those of you who watch this on the recording, come on live next time. See you later. Bye.